people want to feel like, I know we're a society focused on feeling, like everything is about how we feel, but I feel like this and I feel like that, and it's like, it doesn't matter how you feel at that particular moment. You cannot have it all sometimes. Like, there's going to be times when you really need this particular, I don't know, attention, and you don't get that attention because of whatever the reasons are, but you're only thinking about your feelings in that moment. Like, you're not thinking about, okay, last week my feelings were met, my needs were met, everything was great. You're focused on right now, this is how I feel, and right now you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to bounce, it's not working, this person doesn't love me. Start telling yourself all types of stories. Men and women.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome back to another episode of the Couple School Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by the lady of self-love herself,
Hello,
Charmaine
guys.
Lawrence.
I'm ready for this one. Let's go. What
Are you sure?
Doing? Yeah,
Are
let's
you
do
sure?
it.
Right, so, big question.
Mm-hmm.
When is it the right time to walk away from a relationship?
When it's no longer serving you. Is that like the really good way
That
of
is
saying
really
that?
cliche, Jay Shetty kind of... Sorry, Jay.
It's no longer serving your
When the relationship
needs.
is no longer serving your needs. It almost sounds like you should have a harp like playing in the background. Ding, and it's no longer serving your needs. Define that, explain that. Let's go.
I think, you know what, like, I think when the relationship gets to a point where neither of the parties are respecting each other, and the respect is gone, I think then relationships are over. I think there is a point where people don't care, they don't feel guilty for their behavior, they don't respect their partner anymore. I think that's the time when relationships are over. I think that's when it's time to walk away. I don't think there's any coming back from not the care is gone. The way they treat you, there's no guilt. Like they just don't care. Like, I think, like, when it comes to love, I think people can fall in and out of love. But care,
That's a very interesting diagnostic. Very interesting diagnostic. And I sort of stole my thunder. I had a way. I was going to articulate that in my own way, but you know, I think you're absolutely right. I think when and I think if people are absolutely honest with themselves, you know when that point hits, you just cover it up with other reasons as to why you should stay. You know, children, circumstance, house, parents, people, reputation, whatever it is it may be.
yeah.
But I think people know, and I think it's the only really true line through the middle of point of reckoning, so to speak.
Yeah.
When you stop caring, when you literally couldn't care less
Yeah.
how that person's going to react to your behavior. Love already left long time ago, and now purpose has gone with it. And I think that, I completely agree. That's the point of when you've got to draw the line in it.
I agree. I think love is like a dimmer switch. Sometimes it's up and down, like you love them so much, and then sometimes you're like, don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about them right now, or whatever. But I do think that there is an element of just respect that goes, that when that is gone, and I'm not talking about the little things where people are like, oh, you know, said something that's been really disrespectful, and then they're apologetic because they were angry or blah. Those things, or you have those situations sometimes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually do not care what you do, how you do it, how they treat you, what you're saying. Like, you know that's happening. You know when that's happening. That, to me, is a straight walk away.
Yeah.
That's a straight walk away for me.
And I think it's important for both sides of that coin, really, is for you to understand when you've got there. You know, just as much as you've got to watch out for it in the other person and go, okay, right, cool, this has reached the point of no return. I think you've also got to realize when you've reached the point of no return, when your behavior is emulating that, when you're literally doing stuff that you know full well is going to be hurtful, spiteful, disrespectful, whatever appropriate title you want to put in there to your supposed other half.
Yeah.
But when you do that self-checking mechanism and the devil steps up and does,
Yeah.
then you've got to go, okay, right, well, you know, maybe I shouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to call it a day. And don't get me wrong, I get how circumstances can make that decision very, very difficult.
Mm.
You know, when there are kids involved, there are other overlying factors, or you're tied into houses where there is equity and all the rest of it. I get how that can be difficult, but what I would also stress is the fact that those factors are all bolt-ons to what's going on, and they're going to become stressors if you don't deal with them, and they become issue. They're going to be things that make and magnify your situation past where you are now, and actually don't have any say in the actual decision that needs to get made. You know, when it comes to children, I mean, we watch on films and this, that, and the other all the time about parents that are splitting and how that can have an effect on the child. You know, but the bit that the movies don't show is the other side of where parents have called it right and have split at a point which was sensible, whereby they've managed those children's expectations and emotions, and they've actually now got two happy homes as opposed to one really disruptive one.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes splitting is the answer. You know, not every relationship, just as you say, not every person is supposed to be in your life for a reason. Sometimes they're there just for a season. You know, that goes as far as your romantic connections as well. Sometimes even to the extent of when you got married and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, it just comes to a point where it comes to a natural end. And I touching on what you're talking about, love is like a dimmer switch. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
I still go back to that and Michelle Obama, and I don't understand how you could not love that. But anyway, you know, she famously said in her interview with Oprah, you know, she didn't like her husband for 10 years. Don't I understand how she does that? Because Obama, yeah, we're all good. But it's a pure illustration of, even if we just take that couple per se, in a hyper powerful situation, hyper powerful roles, completely global influential positions, and then within their own relationships and within their own dynamic, they're still going through the same issues that everybody else is.
Yeah.
And the same challenges that everybody else is.
Yeah, but it's just understanding the position. Like, I think sometimes we have to be aware of our partner's journeys as well as our journeys. And like in that position, as much as she didn't like him because probably there was things that he wasn't necessarily meeting, but I think she also weighed it up against his actual position in the world at that moment, what his job is, what he has to do, and therefore he's going to fall short somewhere. I think this idea that we can have it all as well doesn't
nonsense.
Happen. You can't have it all, and I don't think men can have it all as well. They don't have, like, it's this idea that they have the capacity to be, you know, super successful as well as be a super great dad and a super great husband.
No.
And there all the time. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. And so I think she was like so accurate when she said what she said. Like, there is times when you're not going to get your needs met because of the position that your partner's in at that time. And so she weren't 100% happy. Like, she didn't like him. I think she said something like, you know, he was like, oh, you know, what are you doing all day or something like that, or what you've been doing today. She's just like, what?
Yeah, you got time for golf, because that's where he was going. Yeah, that's where he was going. He was going to golf.
Yeah, but it's kind of like it's just sometimes just how it is. But I think those moments, you know, that your needs are not being met, but you know that person loves you, that person respects you, that person cares for you. But just the position they're in at that moment can't necessarily give you what you need, and I don't necessarily think that's a walk away moment.
No.
No,
and I'm glad you touched on that because I think that a lot of people are triggered by those moments and do walk away. So they hit a point in their relationship where they're like, okay, right, well, my needs aren't being met right now, so that means it must be over.
Yeah.
When actually, if you took a look at the whole picture, you'd realize the reasons as to why that particular need wasn't being met at that specific time. You know, and I think some people don't acknowledge your own responsibility for articulating the fact that you are missing something. And I think some relationships could have been solved if the person that was missing something actually articulated to the person that was supposed to be delivering, hey, your Uber delivery didn't come in. My satisfaction is a 1 star.
Yeah.
You know, but even 1 stars don't mean that it's over.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you've touched on this in numerous casts and conversations we've had in the past, that people are too quick to throw in the towel. In the way in which relationships are articulated these days, it's supposed to be everything without the struggle.
Yeah.
When actually the struggle is what makes your relationship. Every time you go through the struggle, the two of you gain strength, and that adds to what you are and what you're supposed to be, and therefore unlocks what you can possibly have. And I think a lot of people, because they hit a situation where, you know, one person's doing something, has got a job, this, that, and the other, that's got them stressed out, so therefore they're not as attentive at home. They're like, okay, well, he doesn't care about me, or she doesn't care about me anymore, so I'm going to go and do this.
Yeah.
You know, and then it causes a rupture or a fracture. You know, the whole. I love you touched on the fact that, you know, you can't have it all, and I firmly preach on that. Like, you can't. It's not possible. Like, guys, especially, it's not possible for you to be the 110% dad, 110% business, 110% lover, 100% friend,
Yeah.
and there's not enough of you, and there's not enough time or days in the week for you to be that.
Yeah.
And what you've got to accept is that. And when you do accept that, then life becomes a little bit easier, because the pressure that you're holding yourself against starts to ease. And sometimes what especially us as guys do, when we're trying to be that 110% everywhere, because we can't make that, we start to look at our circumstances and go, okay, well, maybe this just isn't right if I can't do that. You know, because that's what I'm supposed to be able to do. I'm supposed to be Superman. So if I'm Clark Kent here, then this must be wrong. So I've got to change that so I can find the space where I can be Superman. When actually, it's a requirement for you to be Clark Kent in that point in time, or that position in time, because it's what's going to help nurture that to be the space where you can be Superman in the future. You know, I just think people are too quick to throw in the towel and run away, and walk away.
I mean, you know how I feel about it. I think, you know, people want to feel like, I know we're a society focused on feeling. Like, everything is about how we feel, but I feel like this and I feel like that, and it's like, it doesn't matter how you feel at that particular moment. You cannot have it all sometimes. Like, there's going to be times when you really need this particular, I don't know, attention, and you don't get that attention because of whatever the reasons are, but you're only thinking about your feelings in that moment. Like, you're not thinking about, okay, last week my feelings were met, my needs were met, everything was great. You're focused on right now, this is how I feel, and right now you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to bounce, it's not working, this person doesn't love me. Start telling yourself all types of stories. Men and women both do that. They both tell themselves stories about how somebody's behaved a certain way, or done something, or lacked something, and they tell themselves a story made up about why that's happening. Do you get what I mean? Like, I find sometimes I've heard people say to me, oh, you know, he did this, which means that he feels like this. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. It's just, that's the story your brain is telling yourself because of what you've read, you've heard, you've experienced, you've seen. So you've now taken that information and created your own story based on that, based on those experiences. But, you know, I just think people just take have so much attention on themselves rather than the unit. Like, I always talk about it as a unit. Like, people are like, why do you say that? Like, it's the unit, my unit. This is my unit. My unit works like this. I don't know how your unit works, but this is how my unit works. Like, you know, and I think you have to understand that every unit there's a team player, and sometimes, what was it Chris Rock said? Sometimes you got to play tambourine. Sometimes you're playing the tambourine. Sometimes you're a front runner and you're up there singing away, and sometimes you're just playing the tambourine.
But you better play tambourine like your life depends on it.
Yeah, you play it really well.
Yeah. I think if people would just look at their relationships in the same way that they accept other things, then you'd start to get somewhere. Like, if we were talking about the journey of entrepreneurship, people would understand struggle versus feeding. You know, if we're talking about, if I put this in context of bodybuilding, there's any bodybuilder out in the world, whether they are professional or part-time, understands that there are days that you get up and you're like, I don't want to eat insert appropriate whatever food it is. But the goal outweighs the feeling that you've got right now, so you do it anyway. There are times when you don't want to go to the gym. Like, there are many times that I give more to it now than I did before. But I think back in the day when I was really stringent and strict with the gym, there were so many days where I got up and I'm like, I cannot be bothered. But that was how I was feeling in the moment, and how I was feeling in the moment had no jurisdiction to make a decision on what I was working towards.
Yeah.
And I decided that. And I think when it comes to your career, you understand that there are certain times you're going to get up in the morning. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to that meeting. I don't want to. You're saying I don't want to go to this Teams meeting as you're logging on to the Teams meeting. Like, I can't stand my boss as you open the door to walk into your boss, because you accept that these are the things that you have to do in order to get the thing that you want.
Yeah.
Understand your relationships working exactly the same way. The goal was not to just find or get into the relationship. The goal was to brew, develop, and evolve a relationship. So the end goal is that couple goals bit of being happy. That status, that ethos, that entity of being happy.
Yeah.
But that means sometimes you're going to get up in the morning, I can't stand my other half, and you're like, good morning, darling.
Yeah.
And you go make them a cup of coffee as you normally would do.
Yeah.
You know, like, there are going to be times where you and your other half aren't going to see eye to eye. There are going to be times where, you know, you want to do one thing, they want to do another. Like, that's just life.
Yeah.
You know? But understand that's the journey that you accepted. It doesn't mean that it's over. It means you're doing the right thing. You're doing the thing called life.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. I mean, guys, I literally was moaning to Andrew by voice note about the fact that, like, people are so negative about relationships. Like, they expect this rose tinted, like, we talk about this every single week, but we're going to continue talking about it, because you have to understand that relationships are beautiful. And yes, there are challenging moments. They're supposed to be challenging moments. You're supposed to just get through them. You're not supposed to just throw in the towel. And we're not talking about, don't move from someone being abusive and all that kind of stuff. We're not talking about that. We're talking about normal, everyday arguments or disagreements and things like you're not happy with. It's communication. It's like what you're saying. You go to work, you know that actually, I think this is the best way to do it. And your boss is telling you, nah, we're going to do it this way. You just slide with it and you wait. Like, if he gets it wrong, you're like, okay, shall we try my way? You know, it's all good. It's like, it's not that deep. Like, you just don't need to take things so deeply, be like affected so deeply. Like, this is your partner, this is your person, and therefore they are not your twin. They're not identical to you. They're
not supposed to agree.
You're supposed to have different ideas as well.
But that's the whole point of connecting with someone. You don't want to clone. You know, if you were happy just hearing your own ideas, then you'd be happy by yourself. You're trying to connect with somebody else. Now, when we take a look at a rose, say for argument's sake, a rose by dictation of history and everything known in the art world is supposed to be one of the most beautiful flowers in the world. Why is it made with thorns?
Yeah.
You know? Because the imperfections go with perfection in order for you to appreciate perfection. Like, for you to get the relationship that you're after, you've got to work, strive, craft, and create it, and accept the work that comes with it. You know, we've touched on this on previous podcasts before. You know, you have to accept the work, because that's what you volunteered for. Relationships don't come pre-packed perfect, and they don't come with an instruction manual that goes, you know, insert this here and fix that together, and then all of a sudden, hey presto, here's the end result. It comes without an instruction manual, without tools, and sometimes you've got to make the bits and pieces that hold it all together along the way.
Yeah.
You know? And it's remembering that, like, lose the idea of, you know, the concept of the one. So this person is supposed to be perfect for me. Yeah, they're perfect for you right now. But if you want that person to be in your, if you want that person to be in your, like I said this numerous times, there is a person that is perfect for you in whatever mode, model, or situation that you're in at that specific moment. But if you want that person to go from here to 5 years' time, where you're going to evolve and they're going to evolve, then it's going to require work to hold the two together long enough to get to that point or period of time, let alone if we're talking about 50, 40, 50, 60 years into the future.
Yeah.
You know, except the work is part of it. But going back to the original question, sometimes people are only supposed to be in your world for a season.
Yeah, sometimes.
Or a reason. And sometimes you've got to be able to see when it's time to either let go and walk away, or just to step out.
Yeah.
You know, and to leave it alone. And I think the metric of going right, well, when either you couldn't care less or the other person couldn't care less, that's actually the yardstick in this one.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, because everything else can be worked around or can be, as you said, turned up or turned down.
Yeah.
But if you get to a stage where you couldn't care less about someone, that's deep.
That is deep.
That's
like,
deep. That, you imagine that she said, there are very few people that I could say from my, well, there's no one in my present I could say that about, and very few people in my past that I could actually say, I really, from the bottom of my heart, couldn't care less whether you are breathing or not. There are a few. You know who you are, but there's not many. But there are a couple that I literally, I could like, whether you woke up tomorrow morning or not, I could not care less.
I have been in that space before. Where, not like I couldn't care if you were alive, but I couldn't care less what you felt about me, like, or my actions, or what. I could not care less. I'm telling you, I was like, and to the point where I was like, I was sitting down having conversations with myself about, you're actually so rude. You're so rude. I'm talking to myself, you're rude, you're disrespectful, like you can't behave like that. And then the other part was like, I just don't care. Like, and at that point I was like, I should not be here.
But you see,
I should not be
that
here.
point in time, because as you're saying that, there are a few circumstances I can recall where I'm about to do something, or I've just done it, and the angel in the back of my head has just gone, you know, that's a bit messed up, right? Yeah, that's a bit, and the other guys popped up and went, I just couldn't care less. I don't care I don't care if they find out. I don't care if I get caught. I don't care if it comes on top. I don't care who says whatever. Like, I just don't. And at that point, I was like, okay, right. Well, this is.
No, I can't.
This
even,
is time to hit the exit point. Like, it's time to pack a bag. Like, it's time to go.
It was a place. I'm not going to say it was dark, because it wasn't. Because I still, even now,
none of mine were dark.
Don't feel bad. Where I was in that time, I could not care less. You know, when you do everything possible and just gets to a point where you've done it all, you're working on your own, no one's working with you, it's okay, cool. That's it. But what more can I do? That's where I was. So, and then I was like, okay, this is not, I'm not proud of my behavior, because I'm a nice person.
She says,
I am a nice person, and in my head I'm like, you are a nice person. This is not. When you feel this way, it's time to cut. Like, it's just time to cut. Like, and so another thing I was going to say is, a lot of people like are worried and scared about work, but the work you have to do, or the work that you think that, it's going to be too difficult, so let me walk away. There is actually sunshine at the end of that rainbow. Like, there's sometimes I think people, when you're going through something, and you figure it out, you learn something.
Yeah.
And you learn something new about that person, or what that situation, or about yourself. And so the thing that you're running away from, if you actually just do the work to get through that space, you learn something. And I think that's why I don't run from like disagreements at home. Like, I face them head on, because I know I'm going to get something back from this. Like, okay, what am I going to learn from this situation? I know I'm going to get something back from it. Like, there's no point having a disagreement and not learning from it. You've got to get something from that. So when sometimes I think people are like, oh my God, this is this, blah, blah, just get through it to see what is the learning that you get. I feel like every situation is a learning situation, or an opportunity to teach.
It has. I mean,
that's me. So
I
don't run from them.
The only time that we learn something is when something doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because when it's working, there's nothing to fix or to change. So when we hit a challenge, you need to remember, challenge in every respect is always filled with tribulation or celebration at the end when the challenge is overcome. So I think some people there are actually frightened that whether or not the relationship itself is going to still be stood at the end of said challenge. But understand, like, the evolution point, or the point of celebration for you, is learning that, and then learning the lesson that came about because of the challenge. And then also the realization, as I said, some people are just here for a season.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe that relationship that you're desperately holding on to, you're holding on to it for relationships for reasons outside of the relationship, for some sort of trauma, some sort of hurt, some sort of fear, whatever it is it may be. You know? Maybe that relationship was sent to you to open your eyes to that, so you can get past that and learn to move past it, so you can get to happiness in the arms of someone else.
Yeah.
You know, so challenge isn't something to run away from. Yes, it can be difficult. Yes, it can be tiring. Yes, it can be exhausting, because sometimes it takes us to the end of our emotions and the end of our wits. But it's never something to be run away from, because it's a guaranteed win. You are guaranteed to learn something at the end of it that is going to help you and evolve you and move you past where you are onto the new, better version of yourself.
Yeah. And again, I think it's important to remind people that we're not saying stay in abusive relationships. It's not what we're saying. We're saying challenging situations that make you question whether you should be in the relationship or not. That's what we're talking about. Just want to put that out there before anyone.
And also following on that, and just as you said there, that point of self-evaluation is critical. You know, and it's an honest point of evaluation. It's not a evaluation based on the fears that you've had from wherever. It's looking at it constructively and going, okay, should I still be here? You know, and it's like that thing where you're going back, well, I couldn't care less. If I couldn't care less is the answer, then you know that you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
If you get to it going, oh, should I be here? Yeah, but the genuine feeling is I still care for this person. Then that's where you go, okay, well, there's still credits in the game. There's still an opportunity for us to move forward. You know, when you may get to a point where you go, okay, right, well, and even before you ask yourself, oh, should I be here? The answer is, don't be silly. Of course you should be. But that tells you that the situation that you're facing is something quite trivial. And it's not something that's actually a deal-breaking kind of situation. You know, and when you alleviate the emotions that you're feeling right at that moment that are making you feel that way, and you get to the center, you go, actually, it's not that bad. I just need to navigate this, that, and the other, or speak to whoever about whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that point of self-reflection, self-evaluation is quite critical for you to be able to do in your own space to go, okay, well, let's make sense of this now. So I can work out how I do this now.
Yeah.
You know?
Top tip that I think is really important. That's something that I keep with me, is that understanding that just because you do something one way doesn't mean another person does it that way. You know, sometimes that way, I would do it like this, or I would treat you like this. Like, that's because you are you, but the other person might do things completely different. And that's because they are them. Like we said earlier, we're two different entities, and we do things differently based on our experiences. And so don't assume that because their decisions are different to yours, that they don't have enough credits in the game.
Different doesn't mean wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for everyone to realise that when we're going through things, we can get ourselves caught up into the feeling that, okay, because this person does something different to the way in which I would do it, and I think I'm right, so therefore you must be wrong.
Yeah.
When actually it's far from the case. It's just different variations of getting to the same result, different ways of accomplishing the same thing. And part of your journey within your relationship is to seek the understanding and the respect to be able to go, okay, right, well, we both want the same thing in a different way. So I'm gonna let you do what you do in your way, and I'm gonna do what I do in my way, and we'll meet when we reach the goal. You know, like, just, it doesn't have to be your way or the highway. And I think a lot of people, certainly a lot of people that I've spoken to, that believe that they're at the end of the relationship and actually they're not. A lot of it's that this person doesn't agree with me. That's really what they're saying, and they're frustrated because they feel that the person, in order for their definition of a relationship is that we should agree. So we should agree. We should be on the same page. When actually it's not the definition of a relationship, because you've got two people writing one story. You know, at some point in time, the authors are going to have a difference of opinion, and the difference of opinion should be welcomed. It should be celebrated, because it's at a point where both parties learn something.
Yeah.
You know, you need that disagreement in order for both of you to evolve within your relationships. Why would you want to be in a relationship with the same person, like the clones? That's when the first people would be calling, oh, it's boring.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's boring because, you know, you need that grit between the two of you to get that volley, that bouncing,
great
negotiation back and forth
skills.
Yeah. You know? But even in that respect, if you understand that that's part of your relationship, then when you come across it, you won't think that it's the end of your relationship. You know, just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that they're not with you. Quite the opposite. You know what I mean? They don't agree with you because they're their own person.
Yeah.
But they chose to stand beside you, irrespective of that. That stands for something.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's what's happening this week. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, Couple School After School on Tuesday, 8:30. I'm going to rename it. Come and disagree with Charmaine.
No one ever disagrees
I
with
know,
me.
don't. I'm only joking. Couple School After School, we will be live on Instagram at 8:30 on Tuesday. Come and join us. Share your opinions. Tell us we're right. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us your stories. Tell us your experiences. Whatever it may be and everything in between. We'll be back on YouTube next week, Sunday at 12 p.m. for the next episode of Couple School. Yeah. Don't miss it. Couple School Podcast. Don't miss it. Before you leave, hit the subscribe button. It's down here somewhere. Mm-hmm. I know I'm hitting it.
No, you're not.
I am. It's down here. And then also don't forget the infamous bell.
The bell.
It's right up there. It gives you notifications and tells the infamous algorithm to which life is dictated by that we still exist. We'll be back next week, as I said. In the meantime, you guys stay strong, stay focused.